Over 60? Discover 4 incredible vitamins to avoid and 4 life-changing ones to embrace daily. Martha's heart raced as she read those words emblazoned across a bright flyer. The town hall's walls seemed to echo with possibilities, vitality, health, and the promise of change. At 62, she had been cocooned in grief since losing her beloved husband, John. The pain was as palpable as the autumn chill in the air. Yet, there in her quaint rural town, the scent of flowers she tended could never quite mask the weariness that weighed her down. She poured her energy into her garden, cultivating vibrant blooms, but the vibrant greens couldn't fill the void of her cherished life partner. Behind the dusty windows of the community center, the laughter of children often mingled with quiet sighs of other seniors. And while she shared her strength with them, her own heart longed for a companion who would never return. That day, among the rows of folding chairs, she felt a flicker of something, a hope that perhaps all her experience could be a bridge to a healthier future, not just for herself, but for her friends grappling with their own battles. After the seminar ended, Martha grasped tightly onto the glossy pamphlet filled with the idea of life-changing vitamins that could ignite a spark in her community's gray clouds of despair. "Can I really inspire change?" she whispered to herself, her fingers trembling with the thought. As she left the town hall, she knew she had discovered something important. The reality of her excitement, however, was met with a wave of skepticism from the townsfolk when she returned to the community center the following week. "Martha," muttered Beth, her neighbor, eyes narrowing, "don't you think that's just a little naive?" The murmurs of the crowd grew as they shot glances filled with doubt. Each skeptical look felt like a person tightening their grip on her spirit, and Martha's heart sank. She had fought so hard to be a pillar of strength, yet inside she battled insecurities, fearing rejection from those she longed to help. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Upon the brink of the annual Harvest Festival, the heart of their town, she knew she had to stand tall. Martha envisioned a booth bursting with colorful vitamins, where townsfolk could share their stories, fears, and hopes. A community evolving together. But as she crafted her plans, whispers circulated. Friends turned into cynics, and her heart began to ache anew. Sitting at the kitchen table one quiet evening, the setting sun casting golden rays through the window, Martha questioned herself. Was she really equipped to steer this ship? She felt small, alone, a flicker in the face of a storm of doubt. Would her passion cut through the haze of fear permeating her neighbors' hearts? As the festival dawned, the air buzzed with excitement, but also with tension. Martha's hands trembled as she set her booth, her heart racing to the rhythm of the festival's pulse. Suddenly, an unexpected event pulled her into the spotlight, leaving her frozen, every eye on her, waiting, hoping, questioning. Would she rise to this occasion, or would she fade into the background, yet again, alone in the shadows? Martha felt the weight of dozens of gazes pressing down on her like a heavy blanket. The festival bustle buzzed around her, alive with laughter and shouts of children chasing after balloons. Yet here she was, on the precipice of her dream, trembling like a fragile leaf caught in the wind. The unexpected event that drew attention to her booth was not what she had envisioned. The mayor was making an announcement, a spotlight illuminating her spot set up amongst the bright oranges and reds of autumn decorations. "Let us give a round of applause for Martha," he said, clapping his hands, "who's worked hard to bring some exciting health information to our community." The applause was thunderous, echoing in her chest, but it felt hollow. Martha couldn't decide if they were clapping for her ideas or just out of obligation. She mustered a smile, her lips trembling, as the crowd turned their focus solely to her. She had hoped to share something meaningful. Now the antics of the festival seemed to drown the burgeoning sense of purpose that had sparked within her. As the sound of hands clapping began to die down, she knew this was her moment. She took a deep breath, allowing the scent of caramel apples and pumpkin pie to fill her lungs. The warmth of summer was gone, But with every breath, Martha felt a flicker of that hidden spark she'd uncovered weeks ago. She stepped forward, her heart racing fiercely, even as anxiety twisted in her stomach. "Thank you, everyone," she began, her voice steadying with conviction. "Today, I want to talk about how we can embrace a healthier life together, especially as we age. I found some wonderful vitamins that can help us feel more vibrant and lively." Her words spilled forth, infused with passion. She talked about the importance of vitamin D, how it could lift spirits and support strength. She moved on to B12 and its magical ability to boost energy. As she spoke earnestly, she could see some faces soften. Martha began to catch glimpses of intrigue, the furrowed brows beginning to relax. This was more than selling vitamins, it was about fostering a renewed spirit within her community. Just as she reached the invigorating benefits of antioxidants, the festival buzzed once more. The music shifted to a lively tune, and excited children began dancing near her booth. A young girl with curls bouncing stepped forward, her eyes wide and innocent. "Can I try a vitamin?" she asked, clutching a vibrant flower she had picked. Martha's heart melted as she glanced downward, honoring this sweet moment. "Of course. Just a moment," she replied, rummaging through her display to find a small sample packed with flavor. As she handed it to the girl, she realized she didn't just want to share knowledge. She wanted to connect, to bring life back not only to herself, but to everyone touched by loss, by the fragility of time. Then she noticed Beth standing at the edge of the crowd. Skepticism softened. Beth raised an eyebrow, lips pursing, but she didn't look away this time. There was a hint of curiosity. Martha's pulse quickened, a spark igniting her hope. If this could open the door, maybe she could build something anew, a network of support, hope, and renewed joy. Just then, from the side, a voice rang out, cutting through her thoughts. "Martha, let us see what you've got." It was Frank, one of the most notorious doubters of her plans. Hands on hips, they asked the crowd, turned to listen. Her heart raced again. But this time she was ready. She could feel the energy rising. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about all of them. Could she convince him and, by extension, her community? Would this festival mark a fresh start in her own life too? As she took a deep breath and prepared to answer him, an unexpected wave of optimism washed over her. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone in this battle for health and happiness after all. And as the music played and laughter filled the crisp autumn air, Martha felt a new chapter unfurling before her, waiting to be written. The smile on her face beamed with hope. What was to come next? Martha took a moment to glance around. The crowd had shifted, moving closer as if drawn in by some unseen force. She felt the energy ripple through the air, thick with anticipation. And there was Frank, arms crossed, his expression a mix of skepticism and curiosity. This was her chance. She could feel it deep in her bones. "Frank, thanks for coming over," she began, her voice steady. "I know you have your doubts, but hear me out. These vitamins can enhance overall health, especially for those of us past 60. Imagine a community where we feel strong and vibrant. Shouldn't we aim for that?" Some folks nodded. A woman in the front, gray strands interwoven with her dark hair, smiled encouragingly. Frank, however, shifted his weight. "What makes these vitamins special? There are so many scams out there," he pressed, his tone firm but not antagonistic. "I get it," Martha exclaimed, her heart racing as she responded. "I was skeptical too. But these aren't just any products. They're formulated based on research into age-specific needs. For example, vitamin D helps with calcium absorption, which is crucial for bone health. And you can't just ignore B12, it plays a significant role in keeping our energy levels up." She could see that some in the audience were leaning in, their faces showing a spark of interest. That flicker of warmth ignited a fire within her. Martha cleared her throat and continued. "And let us not forget about the antioxidants. They fight off free radicals, preventing premature aging. Who wouldn't want that?" Frank's lip twitched. It was subtle, but she caught it, a sign of a crack in his armor. "Okay, I'm listening," he replied, arms relaxing just a fraction. "But what about the ones to avoid? If we're talking about vitamins." "Great question," Martha interrupted, a grin breaking across her face. "I'm passionate about that part too because it's just as important. For instance, excess iron can be harmful and tends to build up in our bodies. High doses of vitamin A can also be risky. We need to know what to avoid just as much as what to embrace. Martha watched Frank nod slowly, processing her words. It was small, but it was something. The crowd murmured some sharing thoughts, others exchanging glances. It felt electric. Before she realized it, more people were stepping forward, curious, asking about specific vitamins they'd heard about. Martha found herself fielding questions not just from adults. Children too were catching snippets, looking up at her with wide eyes, eager to learn. For the first time, she felt connected to them all. This wasn't merely about selling vitamins. This was a movement, a gathering of souls reaching out, wanting health and happiness as they aged. The festival faded into the background as Martha became completely absorbed in her mission. "Let us do a little demonstration," she said suddenly, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "I'll share some delicious smoothie recipes infused with these vitamins. It's one way we can make healthy living fun." The crowd's excitement grew. Laughter and chatter filled the air, blending with the music and laughter of children playing nearby. Even Beth moved closer, her arms folded, but this time not in disapproval. With every moment, as Martha scooped ingredients into a blender and shared vibrant recipes, she felt a deeper connection not only to the audience, but to the purpose she had long sought. This was her community. Each smile she received was a victory. Each question another step along this path. She was forging to as the first batch of smoothies spun into creation. She caught sight of Frank again. He was smiling, or at least trying to hide it behind a respectful nod. Was he beginning to believe? But just as Martha was tasting the first sip, a sudden commotion broke out by the entrance of the festival. An unfamiliar voice rang out over the music, demanding attention. The crowd shifted sharply, distracted. Martha felt her heart leap into her throat. Who could this be, interrupting such a pivotal moment? As she turned toward the sound, her excitement transformed into anxiety. What was happening now, just when it seemed she was gaining ground? Her hopeful smile wavered, and a new wave of uncertainty washed over her. What surprises lay ahead? What would this unexpected interruption change for her? The story was only beginning, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge was still to come. Martha's heartbeat quickened as she spun around, the chatter of the crowd fading into the background. The tension in the air thickened as a tall figure emerged at the festival's entrance. It was a man dressed in a bright red jacket, the kind that shouted for attention, even in a lively festival filled with color. "Ladies and gentlemen," he called out, his voice booming like a drum. "I have a message you all need to hear." Martha felt a chill run down her spine. The energy around her shifted again. Curious expressions turned skeptical. She instinctively stepped forward, wanting to reclaim the attention from the man, but then stopped. What if he was actually sharing something important? "Who are you?" Frank's voice cut through the murmur, his expression unreadable. "I'm Gary," the man declared, puffing his chest out as he looked directly at Frank. "And I'm here to talk about the truth behind these vitamins." "You think they're making you healthy?" "Think again." Gasps rose from the crowd, and Martha's stomach knotted. They were all hanging on his every word, which was painful after she'd worked so hard to build their trust. "Don't listen to her," Gary continued, pointing directly at Martha. "This is all a gimmick. Vitamins can't replace a healthy diet or lifestyle. You can't just take a pill and expect miracles. I've researched this extensively." Martha stepped forward, her hands raised in a placating gesture. "That is not true. I'm not saying these are miracles, but they can support our bodies as we age. They're backed by research, not just made up." "Research? What does that even mean?" Gary scoffed, brushing off her words. "What we really need is transparency, not these colorful smoothies." His voice dripped with derision, and he waved the air dismissively. Martha felt heat rise in her cheeks. She felt small, not small as a person, but small as in powerless. But deep inside, a spark ignited. She had worked too hard to let him dismantle her passion. "People want to know how to feel great as they age," she said, her voice steady but tight, trying to bring back the energy of connection. "They want to understand their health better. Can't we have a conversation without tearing each other down?" Some in the crowd nodded, their brows furrowing in disagreement with Gary. But he wasn't backing down. "Conversation?" he sneered. "This lady wants to sell you something. Are you prepared to spend your money on something you might not even need? Think about it. Look at her smoothies and vitamins make her feel good, but can she guarantee your health?" Martha's pulse raced. She felt the room teetering on the brink of hostility. It wasn't just about the vitamins anymore. It was about something greater, her belief in community and shared experiences. Could she really allow this stranger to hijack her efforts? Look, she began, breathing deeply. It's about making informed choices. We can be skeptical of everything, yes, but we don't have to tear each other's dreams down. You might think you're helping, but spreading fear only divides us. The crowd was silent, but a glimmer of agreement seemed to surface within them. Frank stepped closer, and Martha could see the questions dancing behind his eyes. Women, men, all we want is to feel better, he said, surprisingly supportive. We've got a responsibility to support one another, not tear each other apart. As Martha exchanged glances with Frank, she could feel the shift. The crowd was restless, uncertain, but Gary was relentless. Support? Or manipulation? He shot back, glaring at Martha. There's a difference. Martha took a step forward, her heart pounding, ready to stand her ground. This was her moment to test not just of her beliefs, but of her courage. The stakes felt higher now than they ever had before. Would she let this man derail her message? Would she let fear win over hope, connection, and knowledge? Martha opened her mouth, ready to speak again, but the words froze on the tip of her tongue. She needed to choose her next steps carefully. What could she possibly say that would turn this swirling tide back in her favor? In that moment of uncertainty, she yearned for her audience to feel the weight of their collective experience. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could bring forth a revelation that snuffed out Gary's fierce words. What did she really want them to take away from this? And how could she transform the atmosphere before her into one of unity rather than division? The air felt electric with possibilities, and she knew their journey together was far from over. What would her next step be? Would she rise to the challenge? Martha stood there, the weight of the crowd pressing in around her. Every face turned towards her, eyes filled with anticipation, concern, even skepticism. It felt like a wave crashing against her, urging her to retreat, but she couldn't. Not now. She took a deep breath, grounding herself amidst the chaos that Gary had sown. Okay, everyone, let us breathe for a moment, she said, her voice clear and steady. I understand there are doubts and fears, and that is perfectly okay. Our health is nothing to play around with. A ripple of understanding traveled through the audience. Then she pressed on, recalling the faces of her friends and neighbors, those she had shared countless smoothies with, those who confided in her about their aches and worries. Can we celebrate the journey we've been on together, instead of letting one man create fear between us? That seemed to resonate. Martha could see a few nods in the crowd, people who believed, who were proud of the shifts they had made in their lives. Gary scoffed, but his bravado seemed to falter slightly. What journey? You're all looking for an easy fix, and she's selling you one. Martha's heart raced at his dismissal, but she pressed forward. I'm not here to sell you a dream. I'm here because I believe in the strength of community. Each of you has a voice. Let us take a moment to talk about what really matters. What are our goals together? A murmur of agreement swept through them. The faces that had previously been hardened by Gary's rhetoric now appeared curious, ready to engage. What if I share one thing? Martha said, glancing at Frank for encouragement. Just one story of how these vitamins have actually changed someone's life? Can I share that? Yes. Someone called out from the back, and it was contagious, a ripple of excitement. Right, Martha decided, her confidence rising. My friend Kate was feeling sluggish and overwhelmed. She was struggling to keep up with her grandkids. We talked, and she hesitantly tried these vitamins. After just a month, she felt a difference. She found energy she thought was lost. She was back on the hiking trails laughing with her family again. Several people nodded knowingly. She could see this resonated with them. It wasn't just about pills or smoothies. It was about bringing joy back to their lives. You see, she continued, this is about empowerment. Choosing to take charge of our health. My goal isn't to convince you to buy, it's to encourage you to explore, ask questions, and be informed. Together, we can navigate this. We can applaud each other's journeys. The tension started to lift, and she could almost visualize the shift, like a curtain raised to let in the light. Gary clenched his jaw, but the crowd was starting to gather around Martha. Not only was she defending her place, but she was also creating a space for a new dialogue. Everyone needs to decide for themselves what works best, she stressed. But sharing knowledge and experiences, That's where the real power is. Just like the kale we toss into our smoothies, it's not just one ingredient. It's the blend that makes it nourishing. Laughter burst from the crowd, easing the air. Martha felt her chest swell with hope. Maybe she could turn this around after all. Gary glanced nervously around, realizing his hold was loosening. You don't have to follow her blindly, he shouted, but his challenge sounded weak, crumbling against the tide of support. Exactly, a voice replied. We're not blindly following anything. We're learning together. Martha seized that momentum. So, how about we set aside our differences and take a minute to share what works for us? What if we turned this into a discussion instead of a tussle? Yeah, came the shout from the back, the enthusiasm growing. As people began to chatter excitedly among themselves. Martha knew they were on the brink of something incredible, a collective courage to confront stigma and misinformation. But in the pit of her stomach, she felt a pang of uncertainty still lingering. Would it be enough to shift the narrative? Gary's voice rang out one more time, faint but sharp. You'll regret believing her. Martha turned back, a rush of determination flowing through her. The time for fear was over. She was ready to reclaim her voice for the women and men whose lives hung in the balance. The crowd's energy swelled, electric with possibility. As everything settled into a new rhythm, Martha couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. Could they truly come together, or would the seeds of doubt still linger? Her heart raced with both excitement and trepidation. What if this was just the start? What would happen when they pushed for more than just vitamins? What larger truths were waiting to be uncovered? The crowd was buzzing now, a symphony of voices mixing with laughter and a newly sparked passion. Martha felt that flicker of hope ignite within her. People were connecting, sharing, and the barriers built by misinformation were starting to fragment. But still, a part of her felt unsteady. Gary's words echoed in her mind. You'll regret believing her. She noticed Helen from a few rows back, a woman she knew had been hesitant about the vitamins. Helen's face held a cautious curiosity. Was she on the brink of believing? Martha took a step forward, channeling her energy. Let us remember that knowledge is a journey, not a destination. She called out, trying to reel everyone in. What works for one doesn't work for all, and that's okay. Let us share our experiences. Who has seen changes, big or small? One after another, hands shot up. People began sharing their stories, voices blending into a wave of positive reinforcement. I started taking these vitamins a month ago. I finally have the energy to play games with my grandkids. A middle-aged man named Roger enthused, his eyes sparkling. Me too. I can make it through a whole yoga class without needing a nap afterward, chimed in Lisa, beaming with pride. You see? Martha encouraged, moving closer to the microphone set up at the front. These aren't magic pills, and they aren't going to change your life overnight. But they have the potential to enhance the quality of our daily living. And what's more, we're figuring it out together. A sense of camaraderie flooded the crowd. The stories flowed like a current, each voice reinforcing their strength in numbers. Martha felt the energy shift. It felt as if the crowd was rising, becoming a living entity, warm and united. But then, the air thickened with a sudden tension. Gary, who had been standing at the back, his arms crossed and jaw set tight, began to stride forward, his presence casting a shadow over the collective brightness. Is this really what you want? He called out, his voice dripping with skepticism. Are you serious about listening to her? Remember, everyone, smoke and mirrors can only distract you for so long. Martha sensed a collective intake of breath. Gary's voice had a haunting way of planting doubt. The mood dipped, but she refused to let him derail the momentum they had built. Listen, she said, raising her voice over the rumble of discontent. We're not here to follow blindly, but to engage in a meaningful conversation. Yes, vitamins. Yes, smoothies. But more importantly, yes to our health, our lives. This is about taking control. An unexpected cheer rose from the crowd. Strength in unity. A voice called, and it sparked more shouts of support from all directions. Martha felt her heart race with adrenaline. They were louder, more vibrant than Gary's negativity. You all have every right to question and learn. Let us not allow fear to dictate our conversations or our choices. Gary scoffed but stepped back, the defiance in his eyes dimming. The crowd was no longer just listening, they were responding. Let us keep this going. Martha encouraged, her voice rising above any lingering doubts. What else are we excited to learn about that supports our health? As hands shot up and discussions rippled through the audience, she noticed Helen's face again. The woman was nodding, her gaze shifting toward Martha with a glimmer of understanding. She began to stand, tentative but determined. However, amidst the ongoing chatter, Martha couldn't ignore the tightening knot in her stomach. They were moving forward, yes, but what if this moment truly put them on a shaky path? What if their journey towards empowerment held unforeseen challenges? Before she could ponder further, Helen spoke up. I want to share too, but what if I've been doing everything wrong before now? What if I realize I didn't know the right questions to ask? Martha felt her own heart leap. This was the turning point, the raw honesty they needed. That's okay, she said, a reassuring smile on her face. This is about discovering what we didn't know. Together, we're creating a pathway to find better answers. But even as Martha spoke, the gravity of Helen's acknowledgement weighed heavily. They had started a conversation, but what uncharted territories lay ahead in their quest for genuine health? And through it all, Gary lingered like a storm cloud at the corner of her mind. What would his next move be? The air buzzed with possibility, and yet uncertainty loomed. Was this community truly ready to challenge everything they thought they knew? Would they weather the storms together? As Helen continued to stand, the crowd's murmurs shifted. Some exchanged nods, while others leaned in closer, curiosity ignited. Martha's heart raced, sensing the pivotal moment unfolding. She welcomed Helen, gesturing for her to come forward. Join us, Helen, Martha encouraged, her voice steady but warm. Your truth is just as valuable as anyone else's. Helen, cheeks slightly flushed, moved closer to the microphone. I've been so unsure, I want to believe that these vitamins can help me feel better, but I'm terrified. What if it doesn't work out? Martha heard a sympathetic murmur ripple through the audience. They were feeling what Helen felt. This was real, raw vulnerability taking front stage. Everyone has doubts. They are part of the journey, Martha assured her, stepping toward the crowd. But look around. Can you see the shared experience here? You're not alone in this. A gentle buzz of agreement spread through the audience, affirming that they were in this together. Martha could almost see the tension in the room melting away as the shared stories continued. Last year, I felt exhausted all the time. I never could keep up with my kids, another voice piped up, this time a young mother named Katie. But since starting these vitamins, I found a spark I thought I lost. The applause was immediate, cascading from all corners of the gathering. People were starting to believe in the possibility of change. They were leaning into hope. Martha felt infused with energy, but in the back of her mind, the specter of Gary loomed. She didn't want to acknowledge him, but his presence was impossible to ignore. He was not just a person. He was a reminder of the fears they all faced. Suddenly, the crowd quieted down as Gary reemerged, his voice cold and dismissive. Is this what you want? A bunch of stories about how vitamins changed someone's kitchen routine? Let us be real, people. You think a few pills are going to solve your struggles? Martha's heart sank, anger bubbling beneath her skin. What you call stories, Gary, we call life. We're sharing victories in small and big ways. You can't argue with that. The crowd erupted in cheers again. Stand strong in what you believe. Someone shouted from the back. Gary clenched his jaw, his expression souring, and stepped back once more. But he wasn't finished yet. Martha imagined he was only pausing to regroup rather than retreat. Remember this, he barked. Doubt is what keeps you safe. Don't let excitement blind you from reality. Martha glanced at Helen, who seemed caught between hope and fear. That's the thing, isn't it? Martha anticipated. What is safety without progress? What good is being safe if we live lives half-lived? As the crowd murmured thoughtfully, Martha leaned into the moment. Our lives are about taking risks, trying new things. What we choose can turn fear into confidence. So let us keep questioning. Let us keep learning from each other. And there it was the shift. The air thickened with a renewed determination. Voices began to rise again, forming a chorus of encouragement. The crowd felt electric, and they were ready to move forward together. But even before they could immerse further into this newfound momentum, Martha caught sight of Gary slipping to the back of the gathering. Was he plotting? What would be his next attack on their fragile optimism? The questions buzzed in her mind like bees in a hive. She felt a need to protect this community, a bond that had bloomed in front of her. Martha took a breath, resolved to keep the buoyant spirits alive. Let us keep sharing. Let us explore these vitamins together. We deserve to thrive. As people began chiming in again, excitement rippling through the air, she couldn't shake the feeling that challenges were lurking just beneath the surface. Would they truly be able to maintain this unity against the doubts that surely would come? With the atmosphere charged with hope, Martha realized that they were just beginning to uncover not only possibilities but the fight that lay ahead. What would emerge from this unexpected alliance? The question hung in the air: was the journey towards health just starting, or was darkness waiting to reclaim its hold? Martha felt the surge of energy pulse through the crowd, filling the room with determination as they rallied together. Each voice became a testament to the potential for change. It was intoxicating, and she wanted to hang on to it, to bottle it up for later when doubts crept in. Suddenly, Helen chimed in again, her voice more steady this time. What about our fears? It feels heavy, like a weight we can't shake off. A thick silence fell. Many faces reflected that familiar burden, a mix of anxiety and longing. Martha stepped closer to her, skin prickling with concern. That weight doesn't have to be yours alone, Helen. We hold it together now. Let us uncover it, share it. That's what I want, Helen replied, a hint of bravery edging her words. Katie, encouraged by the exchange, added, I used to lie awake at night, haunted by my own fears. But sharing those fears with you all, it made them lighter. It felt freeing. We can't hide anymore. Applause erupted again, this time with fervor, a deep, collective release. Martha noticed Gary lurking, arms crossed, skepticism etched on his face. Yet, she refused to give him power over this moment. Exactly, Martha said passionately. This is about healing, growth. We're here because we refuse to settle for fear holding us back. We strive for hope. The nods and murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd like a wave. Even if shadows lingered, they had each other's backs. Gary, annoyed by the crowd's refusal to yield, stepped forward again. You think this is some fairy tale? Hope won't pay the bills. And neither will those vitamins. Martha spun to face him, her heart pounding. But what if they do, Gary? What if they give people the energy to chase their dreams? To raise their kids without feeling drained? What if that kind of hope ignites change? The air felt thick with charged tension, palpable and intense. Instead of fighting back, Gary's expression flickered. In that moment, Martha saw a crack in his armor, a hint of vulnerability. Hope is for the dreamers. Yes, he began, almost defensively. But reality bites hard. I just want people to be realistic about it. Realistic isn't the opposite of hope, Gary, Martha replied, her voice softening. We can be both. We can acknowledge our struggles while believing in possibilities. That won't ever be dangerous. It can be a lifeline. Another ripple of agreement surged through the crowd. Voices began to interweave into a harmonious message that echoed a sentiment of resilience, a symphony of dreams battling doubt. Let us not give in to shadows. Someone shouted from the back. Let us embrace being scared together. The cheers erupted again, loud and proud. Martha felt something powerful shift as faces lit up, eyes glimmering with newfound purpose. The fear was still there, but it was less intimidating in the light of communal support. Let us keep this conversation flowing, she urged, excitement propelling her. Share not just our victories, but our fears too. Let us unearth the truths troubling us. The crowd buzzed with a renewed sense of unity. People started to speak again, sharing stories, building connections, and finding strength in vulnerability. Each story became a brick in the foundation of their collective resolve. As the gathering continued, Martha glanced around, heart swelling with pride. Whatever darkness loomed, they were standing tall, arm in arm. Yet, just as she began to feel invincible, an unsettling thought surfaced: what would happen if one voice could still sway them back into despair? The evening unfolded, filled with fervor, but in the recesses of her mind, a persistent question echoed. Would they truly overcome the pervasive doubt lingering in the background? And what would it take to silence the shadows for good? Martha felt a wave of energy surge through her as she watched the crowd share their stories. Each revelation added fuel to the fire she had ignited. Yet, beneath the surface comfort of newfound solidarity, an undercurrent of anxiety simmered. She wanted them to flourish, But could she adequately shield them from the nagging doubts still lurking in the corners? As the last speaker wrapped up, the applause rumbled like distant thunder. Martha knew it was time to guide them into a place of deeper connection. "Thank you all for your honesty," she began, her voice steady yet warm. "We've shared so much tonight, and every story matters. What we create here is bigger than us as individuals. But it's also fragile. We must nurture it." People nodded, faces glowing with appreciation and understanding. Even in the dim light, hope shimmered. But as Gary's face flickered in her memory, a little seed of fear planted itself inside her. She turned it over in her mind, pushing it aside for now. "Martha, may I speak?" Helen raised her hand slightly, her eyes wide. It wasn't so much a question as a plea, and Martha could feel a collective shift in the room. "There's something else, something that worries me." Martha stepped closer, beckoning Helen to continue. "Go on. We're here for it all. Sometimes I worry we'll go back to our routines. Back to the daily grind. What if we can't sustain this momentum? What if we go home and the shadows follow us?" Helen's voice quivered, weighing heavily on everyone as if they were inhaling the same breath of raw vulnerability that a hush fell over the crowd. Hearts beat faster. This felt real. "Those shadows can feel suffocating," Katie replied, voice softer now, as if afraid to break the fragile honesty among them. "I get it. I've felt them creeping back after moments like this. But isn't that why we're here? To remind each other? We need reminders." The notion that they could help each other rang true, resonating like the gentle toll of a bell. Martha smiled, feeling her heart relax, if only a little. "Yes," she burst forth with passion. "There's something sacred in community. It's when we hold each other accountable for growth and healing." Gary, still lingering on the sidelines, now uncrossed his arms. The lines on his face deepened, indicating a battle inside him. "So what do we do, then? Hold hands and sing Kumbaya?" His sarcasm was sharp, cutting through the warm haze of solidarity. Yet something in his eyes had shifted, like he was searching for a bridge to this group he felt so out of place among. "No," Martha responded, her voice strong. "Not that. We challenge each other. We inspire each other. But we do it with care, acknowledging that we are all fragile. We are all on this journey together." With this, a hand raised from the back. "What if we create a support group?" Someone suggested, excitement bubbling in their tone. "Meet regularly? Keep those shadows from sneaking in?" A rippling excitement thrummed through the crowd. Ideas began to emerge, each one sparking further involvement. One voice swelled into another, creating a chorus of willingness. But even as they filled the room with resolutions, Martha's heart tightened. A part of her wanted to bask in their enthusiasm, yet another part whispered warnings. Would their words hold true outside these walls? As the meeting concluded, smiles broke across faces, yet shadows lingered. Doubts were cloaked by bravado, and she could see old fears creeping back into the fringes of their minds. And as Martha made her way to the exit, a single thought unsettled her. In the end, would their support be enough to keep despair at bay? Or would it ultimately falter? With uncertainty thrumming like a heartbeat in her chest, she couldn't shake the feeling that the biggest challenge was yet to come. What would truly test their resolve in confronting the shadows together? The Harvest Festival had been a whirlwind, but as the sun began to dip beneath the horizon, a sense of clarity washed over Martha. She had faced skepticism, doubt, and even hostility. Yet here she was, standing firm before a community that had begun to embrace hope, and she felt the flicker of warmth ignite in her chest again. Maybe this is just the beginning, she thought, her heart racing with the thought that rang almost like a promise. She looked around, catching the eyes of familiar faces with whom she had shared small victories over the past few weeks. They were still united, still together, but the real test awaited them. The next steps felt monumental. They had shared their fears, celebrated their small victories, and even envisioned supporting each other. But could they keep that energy alive? Would the shadows return to shroud their determination? Martha chewed on these questions as she drove home, the vibrant colors of the festival fading in the rearview mirror. Days turned into weeks, and Martha kept the momentum alive. She initiated weekly meetings at the community center, where residents could share stories, connect, and explore new health ideas together. Each gathering was a blend of laughter, shared meals, and, most importantly, heartfelt conversations. The burden of fear began to lift. Even if just a little. One meeting found Martha smiling brightly as she engaged with a small group. Let us create our support network, our very own harvest of health, where we can connect you all to resources and each other. The crowd buzzed with excitement. Hands shot up, voices curious. Can we invite guest speakers? Maybe health experts? Chirped a voice from the back. Let us do it. We'll make it an event. Edible gardens, health tips. We can engage the kids. The energy surged, and laughter bubbled through the space. She felt their collective spirit, each voice a thread weaving a strong fabric of community hope. She noticed Helen, who had been a beacon of courage recently, standing with newfound confidence. Can we start with a shared recipe book? Helen asked one week, her eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. Absolutely, Martha replied, feeling joy flooding her heart. Let us celebrate our diverse paths to health. Their excitement was contagious. Soon it morphed into a project, a local initiative filled with vibrant health tips, recipes, and stories that connected generations. They were no longer just talking about vitamins. They were creating a resource that would outlive their doubts. One evening, as they all gathered together, Martha looked out at the smiling faces that she had grown so fond of. You know, it's incredible what we built together. Each of you has not only shared your journey with vulnerability, but also inspired others to dig deeper into their health, their fears, their joys. The crowd erupted in applause, and Martha felt tears pricking the corners of her eyes. The transformation around her was palpable. For the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of belonging that extended beyond loss and grief. As the weeks turned into months, the harvest of health became a staple of life in their small-town community. Martha saw neighbors lean on each other, support tinged with laughter, and friendships blossom in unexpected ways. They had formed a tapestry of connection, each individual thread significant. One day, as she was unpacking supplies for an upcoming workshop, Martha noticed Gary sitting on the sidelines, watching intently. He had come to most meetings now, his skepticism replaced with cautious curiosity. Martha knew he still had fears, but she also sensed he was starting to believe in the potential around him. Hey, Gary, she called out, approaching him with a warm smile. What do you think? Ready to join us on the other side? He hesitated, then nodded softly. Maybe it's about time I try to embrace a few of these benefits myself, he replied, a small smile breaking through to it was about more than vitamins now. It was about relationships, connection, and filling the voids left by pain with purpose. Eventually, the community organized a health fair, a celebration of their collective knowledge, laughter, and support. It became a beautiful moment, seniors alongside youth, exchanging tips, ideas, and laughter. Martha stood in the center, feeling overwhelming gratitude and pride, watching it all unfold. Never did I imagine that embracing health could spark such change, she whispered, her heart overflowing with joy. As the evening drew to a close, she stood before everyone, her voice trembling with a mix of joy and purpose. Together, we've built something remarkable. You are all a testament to what it means to live fulfilled and healthy lives. Let us never forget our strength is in unity, love, and shared experiences. Applause erupted, echoing through the crisp night air, just like the cheers from that festival long ago. But now, it felt different. It felt steadfast, real, and grounded. Through all the swirling ups and downs, Martha had stepped out of shadows and into empowerment, surrounded by the very community that had risen alongside her. She realized that while the shadows of doubt may come, they could always be countered with light, the light of togetherness. She soaked in the joy around her. A thought struck. This was not just Martha's story. It was theirs. It was a celebration of resilience. And from that moment on, each of them was a shining star, together lighting the way forward. And as doors opened for the next chapter ahead, Martha knew deep in her heart they had embarked on a journey well worth pursuing. Now, as we close this chapter, let me ask you something crucial. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories unfolding just like Martha's. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure we keep this amazing community alive. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Let us know how this journey inspired you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation and join us on this incredible ride. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Thank you for being with us.